스티븐 코비의 성공하는 사람들의 7가지 습관.
That it is all based upon principles, upon natural laws. That is why we are presenting this foundational material first. We need to understand the concept of a principle and the concept of a paradigm, and also how to define effectiveness. Then we'll look at the 7 habits. I suggest that principles are not only natural laws, objective, factual, external to ourselves. I suggest they are also self-evident. How would we know that? We have found that if you can get enough people interacting freely and synergistically who are informed, all the value systems are the same. We find that regardless of one's background, religion, culture, nationality, race, gender, regardless of the level in the organization, regardless of the industry or the profession, the same underlying values are universal. They represent what we could call principles. There is consensus that surrounds them, such as integrity, service, contribution, the growth and development of people, kindness, how you treat people, dignity, fairness. These are universals. Every one of the habits represents a principle, a fundamental natural law that is self-evident. Now, let me just give an illustration of the difference between a social value and principles. It was a dark and stormy night. Captain, wake up. What is it? Sorry to awaken you, sir, but we have a serious problem. And we've tried to solve it and can't. What's the problem? There's a ship in our sea lane about 20 miles away that refuses to move. Well, what do you mean they refuse? Just tell them to move. We have, sir. That's the problem. They won't respond. I'll tell them. The signal goes out. Move starboard 20 degrees. The signal comes back. Move starboard 20 degrees yourself. What arrogance. Who is this guy? He doesn't know who I am. Let him know a captain is giving the command. The signal goes out. This is Captain Horatio Hornblower, the 16th. Move starboard 20 degrees at once. The signal comes back. This is Seaman Carl Jones, the 3rd. Move starboard 20 degrees at once yourself. This is a command. A seaman commanding me, a captain. I can't believe this. What is going on? Let them know who I am. We're a battleship. We could just blow them up. The signal goes out. This is the mighty Missouri, flagship of the 7th Fleet. Signal returns. This is the lighthouse. You see, lighthouses are like principles. We don't break them. We break ourselves against them. This is why humility is the mother of all other virtues. Openness, teachability, humility, awareness of external realities. If you can cultivate that and apply it with other people, you'll change the whole nature of the culture. It'll become a principle-centered culture, not one driven by social values. I had a friend of mine who said, our company is value-driven. I said, every company is value-driven. Hitler was value-driven. The question is, are the values in alignment with principles? That is a humbling question. Are my values and my habits in alignment with principles, with natural laws? Now, when principles and values are aligned, then you could use the words interchangeably. You could call it values or principles. It would make no difference. So you don't want to get hung up semantically on the difference. But if they are not aligned, then it's better to see what the principle is and what the established value is, and then work here to align it. The 7 habits of highly effective people. Highly effective. Not mediocre effectiveness. Not low-level effectiveness. High effectiveness. Quantum leaps in effectiveness. What do we mean by effectiveness? What is effectiveness? We could use the word success, but that word carries so much of the old social value connotation of having it all. That's why we use the word effectiveness. 7 habits of highly effective people. You know about Aesop and his famous tales about this poor farmer, really down on his luck. And the farmer visits his favorite goose. And he notices one day there is a large egg, a golden egg, by the side of that goose. He thinks someone has tricked him. So he throws it away. Second thought, he decides to test it and finds out, indeed, it is pure gold. Pure gold. And he's been so poor for so long. And the next day, another one. And the next day, another one. Every day, there's another golden egg. He becomes so wealthy, so fabulously wealthy, but he also becomes very impatient and very greedy. He wants them all. He wants them all now. So he kills that goose, reaches inside to get them all, and of course finds none. Now, in that little fable is the essence of the definition of effectiveness. It's made up basically of 2 things. Getting what you want, and second, getting what you want in a way that enables you to get what you want again, and again, and again. We call it the PPC balance. P stands for production of desired results. PC stands for production capability. In other words, the capability of the asset to continue to produce the results. You can apply this to any field of human endeavor. Any field. How many here have had a PPC imbalance with regard to the way you take care of your physical assets? Your car, your lawnmower. How many sometimes just run that over and over and not properly maintain? How many have had that experience? Why? It takes time to give attention, time and money to attend to PC, production capability. And people who are in a rush and who want what they want now, they'll go ahead and just run that machine or that car with no thought to its maintenance. Really, no PC attention at all. Eventually, no more golden eggs. The goose dies. Let me ask you what you would do if you were in a situation inside a company. You're in charge of this machine. The machine is producing well. And you want to really impress those people upstairs with the way you can produce. And there's very quick upward mobility. So you're really only interested in short-term production results. What would you do with that machine?
Put it into high gear.
High gear.
Run it all the time.
Run it all the time. No PC, no maintenance. Why? That's downtime. That's costs. Just keep that baby running constantly. More and more and more golden eggs. Now you're promoted because there is such quick upward mobility. The growth is just enormous in that organization. Then the next new manager of the machine comes on the scene. By this time, the machine is broken down because of no PC. So he's got to do PC work, maintenance work, repair work. So his costs go like this, and his production goes like this. My cost went like this, and my production went like that. I wrote black ink, he wrote red ink. So what do we say about my successor? Yeah, what a loser. Really. I mean, while you were there, profitable. As soon as you left, unprofitable. What about our bodies? How many here have the regular practice of a good exercise program? How many know you should? Well, ultimately, what will happen? Immune system could be weakened, make you vulnerable to all kinds of other diseases. What about the mind? What about the development of the mind? Constant learning. You can become so obsolete so fast if you don't pay the price on a daily basis to stay abreast of your own field and at least some working conceptual knowledge of how that relates to the other fields out there. Can you see why effectiveness with oneself, with body, mind, and spirit is a PC balance? With any physical assets, with even financial assets? How many have gone for the golden eggs from time to time in your life where you started to spend the principal instead of the interest? How many have ever done that? That is, you want to live a little higher on the hog, so you dip into the principal, the fund, see, the investment, rather than living on the interest, so that you can have more of what you want now. The whole idea of denying yourself, of subordinating it, of the discipline it takes to save before you spend, instead of to spend and then be forced to save. And that can then be a seedbed to other human interaction problems, or to in-law problems, or any other tender, sensitive areas. That's when you start to realize the goose has died, or is dying. It's sick. The same thing in a marriage relationship. You may have a situation like I saw a while back with the Young Presidents Organization and their families. Very successful person. Went from nothing to worth hundreds of millions of dollars and had a totally bankrupt family. And the question was asked, was this person truly successful? To use our language, effective? Well, in the business sense, maybe you'd say yes. But in the total sense, in terms of what really matters on one's deathbed, you'd probably say no. PC production capability was utterly neglected in the marriage or in the family. Can you see why effectiveness at home is a PC balance? We're tested every day in 1,000 little ways, in the ordinary things. And if we are proactive in those things, it gradually develops extraordinary capability in handling major setbacks or disappointments. But oftentimes, we look into the more spectacular, the more dramatic, the larger issues to see the obvious energy of proactivity, of habit one. For instance, Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist, imprisoned in the death camps of Nazi Germany because he was a Jew, experienced unbelievable indignities and tortures. He was raised in the Freudian tradition that you're basically a product of your childhood. He worked on that assumption, that paradigm. But while he was in the death camps, he began to observe some very interesting things. Some people were animals, others were saints, with the same circumstances. He himself experienced terrible things. Some of his own loved ones were cremated. He expected the same fate. For some reason, they saved him for experimental purposes. One day, they stripped him naked, put him under white light, and began to perform those ignoble sterilization experiments upon his body, and he discovered what he called the last human freedom. The power to choose my response to any condition, to anything that happens to me, he called the last human freedom. And he cultivated a sense of meaning, so that he saw himself in his imagination lecturing to his students in Austria following his release from the death camp about the very experiences he was having at the time, about the insights, the learnings he was acquiring. And he came to postulate that the highest value at all is the power to choose your attitude in situations over which you have no control. That was the last human freedom. If you want to see evidence of that, how many of you have ever had a loved one, a dear friend, family member, go through a terminal illness with a magnificent attitude? How many have experienced that? Now look at the hands, look at the number. How many of you were enormously inspired by such modeling? Same hands. I just saw that with my sister, Marilyn, who just recently passed away. The night before she died, she told me, my only desire is to teach my children and my grandchildren how to die with dignity and with a desire to contribute and to live life nobly and based on principles. And the cancer inside her lung was like a tree growing up. But her whole focus during the months, even years that preceded this, was constant teaching. Those children and grandchildren and friends and loved ones will be inspired and ennobled by such modeling, such mentoring the rest of their lives. Between what happens to us, the stimulus, whatever has happened to us, or what is now happening to us, between that stimulus and our response is a space. In that space lies our power and our freedom to choose our response. In these choices lie our growth and our happiness. In other words, with the right choices, eventually the response we choose begins to influence the stimulus. This is what Viktor Frankl discovered. And through exercising his memory, that is his self-awareness, and his imagination, and his conscience, by asking questions such as, what is this situation asking of me, instead of, what do I ask of it? Why are they doing this to me? And also by exercising his own independent will, this freedom became larger and larger until it was larger than his Nazi captors. Not his liberty. Liberty is a condition of the environment. Liberty is a condition of the externals. Freedom is a condition of the person, of the internals. We have control over our freedom, not in the short run over our liberty. However, in many situations, not necessarily all, the more you control your freedom and expand and deepen it, eventually you will influence the liberty of your life. the options, the alternatives that are available to you. Eventually, your head will create your world. Your response to the stimulus will eventually influence the stimulus. And to some degree, he experienced that. He also had the hypothesis, or tried to look at the hypothesis. What enables these people in the death camps to survive? Is it their survival skills? No. Is it their intelligence? No. Is it their health? No. Those things were eventually equalized, lost. Helped a little initially, but eventually they were gone. Is it their family structure? No. The thing that enabled survival was a vision of the future, a sense of meaning about a work yet to do, a contribution yet to make. And this became the basis for his brilliant autobiographical account of these experiences called Man's Search for Meaning. Even a friend of his was so miserable he wanted to commit suicide, and Frankel pressed him, "Why don't you?" He said, "Because if I predeceased my wife, it would make her so unhappy and miserable, and I love her so." That alone gave him meaning to survive. And he would constantly ask the question, what is life asking of you in this situation? Don't let the things you can do nothing about interfere with the things you can do a great deal about. You study every field of human endeavor. You study every problem-solving process in every profession without an exception, and you'll always You study every field of human endeavor. You study every problem-solving process in every profession without an exception. And you'll always find to understand precedes action. To understand precedes judgment. Lawyers go through a discovery process, often even prepare the case for the opposing counsel. Doctors diagnose before they prescribe. Teachers pre-assess before they teach. What does the amateur salesperson do? Sells products. What does the professional salesperson do? Sells solutions. It's habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. The tendency in almost all people initially is to want to be understood, or if they do seek to understand, they seek with the intent to reply, with the intent to in some way influence, to some way bring the person about, to accomplish their own end, not with the intent to understand. Now, what's your first name?
Al.
Hal? Why does Hal wear those glasses?
See better.
Okay, but what did the optometrist do before he prescribed? He diagnosed. The optometrist tried to understand. The optometrist was first influenced before attempting to influence. And that helped in the diagnosis and the prescription. And that is why Hal wears these glasses. Can I borrow your glasses for a second?
You'll love these. These will really change your paradigm.
These are more powerful? My friend, you've liked these, haven't you?
A long time.
For a long time. We're sure they'll help you.
Whoa.
Whoa! My friend. What's your first name?
Anna.
Anna? Try harder. I mean, really give those lenses the college try. That help you now?
No.
No. Think positively. I mean, there's nothing wrong, Anna, with this program that a good positive attitude can't correct.
Dizzy.
Getting dizzy? This is the company way, Anna. How current your resume? You like them now?
No.
They look good on you, Anna. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Great.
See, we all feel they look good on you. Anna. Daughter, your mother and I, for many years, have distilled the wisdom of our life for your benefit. That's intergenerational wisdom, too, Anna. We've learned it from before. And we put them in the form of those lenses. We've done our best. Anna, you like them now?
They're great, but I still can't see.
They're great, but I can't see. That's kind of a double message, Anna. I mean, do you have any idea the kinds of sacrifices that your mother and I have made for you? The things we have done for your benefit? Huh? In fact, you know what your mother even did to bring you into the world? And the efforts we're making to give to you every opportunity? I mean, what more do we have to say to you? Anna? Like them now?
No.
She's got some integrity. Usually people capitulate. But usually I don't give them that strong of a lens. When they capitulate, I then move to the next person. How do you like them?
I like them.
You have to learn the rest of the day.
That's right. For all those who are quick studies, they are rewarded. You can wear them the rest of the afternoon. Are those tears of gratitude? There you are, my friend. You can see again. I could feel your anxiety level. Now, when I'm convinced I'm right, when you're convinced you're right, do we really want other people's opinions? How many of us, when we are in that mental state, use those methods? You may not use the more extreme ones. You may just simply use the more common ones. Try harder. Just think positively. It'll make the difference.
What's so scary is if you don't use those methods and you let somebody talk, seek first to understand, you might have your mind changed. And a lot of us don't want our mind changed. We want to stay on that same path that we feel comfortable with.
It's very interesting what he just said. If we really start listening, you may be influenced, particularly if our security lies in being right. If you really seek to understand, you run the risk. You're vulnerable. Can you begin to get a better understanding as to why we have the private victory of 1, 2, and 3? Why?
So you can have self-confidence.
Okay, the confidence, your security, comes from integrity to principles, not from being right. So you could be the first person to say, I was wrong. You learn real fast. But almost everyone is anxious to prescribe glasses for eyes they have not diagnosed, because if they really engage in a meaningful dialogue with me, they become vulnerable themselves. It exposes sometimes their own center, their own need to be right, their own need to give wise counsel, to shape up this son, this daughter, this employee, even this customer. You don't know what you need. We know what you need. We'll tell you. Habit 7 is the habit of renewal. What are you doing? Well, you can see him sawing down this tree. I bet you're tired. I am. Well, how long have you been doing it? Oh, I spent 2, 3 hours. Oh, I bet you're really beat. Say, well, why don't you sharpen the saw? Too busy sawing, dum-dum. How many here have ever been too busy driving, you didn't take time to get gas? In physics, it's called the second law of thermodynamics. Everything breaks down. Entropy. It becomes disordered. The opposite of sharpening the saw is to leave it dull until the blade breaks, till the mind becomes dull, the spirit insensitive, the body flabby, where everything has gone to pot. The concept of sharpening the saw, personally, interpersonally, managerially, organizationally, is the concept of continuous improvement. Kaizen, continuous learning, forever getting better. Habit 7 is the habit that focuses on production capability. Habit 7, if done right, automatically develops the other 6 habits, because it takes a high level of proactivity and of responsibility to consistently sharpen the saw. I do not know of one activity that has as great a leverage factor in life as habit 7. What do I mean by leverage? See, if you put the fulcrum in the middle and you put in 1 unit of effort here, you get out 1 unit of productivity here. If you move that fulcrum over, you can put in 1 unit of effort here and get out 100 units of productivity over there. Habit 7 moves the fulcrum over. You may only spend a few hours in an entire week, a week made up of 168 hours. And those few hours will affect the quality, the productivity, the satisfaction, the quality of relationships, the quality of decision-making of every other hour. But the problem is, habit 7 lies in quadrant 2. It is not urgent. That's why most people neglect it. They do it very unsystematically. They hit and miss on it. Sometimes they get kind of imbalanced on it. They focus only in one dimension. See, basically there are 4 dimensions in life. The body, the mind, the spirit, and relationships. We call that the social, emotional side. Social is our relationship with others. Emotional is our relationship with ourselves. Those are basically the 4 dimensions of organizations as well. It has its economic to produce the bottom line towards some mission within a certain value system. That is the spiritual side. Of high trust. That's the social side. In order to have empowerment in the development and use of people's talents, that's the mental side. So those are the 4 dimensions. If you study all of history and psychology and philosophy, inevitably you'll find the same 4 dimensions constantly mentioned. But all 4 need to be attended to in a consistent and regular and balanced way in order to properly sharpen the saw. Okay, now you have all written down what the first things are to you. And you also have written down what is one activity in both your personal and your professional life that you know, if you did it superbly well, that it would have marvelous results. Okay, now let's get into the heart of the application of this paradigm, which focuses upon relationships and principles rather than things, schedules, efficiency, and control. I need a volunteer. How would you like to consider that? Okay. You'd come up here, please. Your name is?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth? Thank you. Good to see you. Elizabeth, you've got... Oh, you hold this. Very, very busy life, right?
I do.
You have a work life?
I do.
Family life as well?
Mm-hmm.
Children?
Not yet.
Not yet. What's the nature of your work assignment?
Consulting.
Consulting. Do you have a part of a firm, a consulting firm?
Yes, I do. I direct an international firm.
An international firm. Mm-hmm. So you really are interfacing with all kinds of people in the firm and outside the firm.
That's right.
Do you also do direct work with the clients yourself?
That's right.
And you have a number of associates you work with all around this country and throughout the world? Starting?
Yes.
Kind of like us.
That's right.
You want a rich personal life and a rich family life and also community and so forth. Do you ever feel like you get bogged down in the thick of thin things?
Yes.
Do you ever feel like your life is kind of out of balance, out of whack?
It can be.
Do you ever feel like you're in the pounding surf?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you just have one big wave after another knock you down, you stagger back, and then here comes another wave, then another one knocks you down to where it just kind of beats you up?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that might be analogous to all these little, small things that tend to fill our life. And that just little by little, they just accumulate. Now, your job, you can't go above this, is to get all those large rocks in the jar. Good luck. I'll describe each of the rocks as she puts them in. What's that one called?
Q2. Planning, preparation.
Right. Planning, preparation, prevention, and empowerment. Q2. That which is not urgent but important.
Right. Am I picking these up in any order?
Any way you want. You want to get them all in there because they're all important. Well, you have the little rocks as they are now, but you can't go above this.
Okay. Can I put this down?
Sure. Okay, the next rock she's putting in there is called relationships and family. She's trying to make it so she can get them all in there on the assumption that by moving the other ones around, it makes more space. You didn't look at that third rock you put in there. That's employment, some key employment issue, and then you put major projects here. I can't get it above there.
I haven't worked it yet.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not going to work.
That's called Service Community Church. Do you ever feel like this?
Yes.
How many feel like this?
Am I still going?
Yeah, you can. Try to get them in there. You're a hands-on person.
I am. Well. It's not very flat.
She just put down the sharpen the saw. How many frequently do that? I just don't have time today to sharpen the saw. You ever been too busy driving to take time to get gas? Vacation's important to her. By moving the little things around, you might squeeze in one more of those big major things.
Does that count?
It's almost. Wow, that is good. You know, if it doesn't fit, force it.
Do I really put all of these in here?
Well, no. You can neglect a big opportunity if you want.
No.
Here's something that's called urgent and important. It's a quadrant 1 thing that is blindsiding you, that it's your biggest client, that if you don't get back to that client now, you've given up your vacation. And you have no special block of time just for yourself. You have no young children. I'll tell you what you can do if you want to.
What's that?
You can take a whole different approach. You have a totally fresh bowl. You can work out of a different paradigm altogether. You can do anything you want.
So I can use that bucket. That's what you're
Anything,
saying?
yeah.
Well, then I'd rather put these in the bottom. And then pour the little pebbles on top. Vacation.
Okay, she has sharpening the saw, planning, preparation, spouse,
Vacation.
employment,
Big opportunity.
big opportunity,
Important and urgent. Block of time. community, church. Those young children keep looking at me. Glad my husband's not here. No, I dump these in there.
Okay?
It's gonna work.
You got all the important things in first, right?
That's right.
That's great. What did you learn?
I learn if I have an opportunity to do all the things that are important first and block out when I have the fullest amount available, and then all the little things will fill in the important things.
Even if this were higher with the green rocks, you may neglect some of those, see? But so what?
Those are just fillers.
Fillers, and they're not important. These things you've decided are the most important things. Did you also notice anything else about each of these things? Common characteristic of each of the big rocks. What have they to do with, or who?
Some had to do with others. They all
With others.
affected
All
others.
had to do with relationships and different roles that you've got. So what if you were to shift to a paradigm of deciding, first of all, what your whole life is about, so that you have a philosophical basis on which to make all of the decisions about what are the big rocks, the middle-sized, small rocks, and so forth. Put the big rocks in very first, the most important things, then the other ones accordingly. And to get out of daily planning altogether, because if you're in the daily planning, what's already happened?
The little rocks are already filling up my day.
Absolutely. And all you're doing now is prioritizing crises. And you have a big rock like this, like a major project, just like you tried to do. There's just no way you can fit that in. So what if you had the philosophy of relationships rather than schedules, and to organize your whole life around relationships, around the roles that you have with yourself and with other people? First. Well, that's the whole idea. Thank you very much. Let's hear it for Elizabeth. Habit 6, synergize, in a sense, is the fruit of the spirit of win-win. Habit 4, the spirit of seeking first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 5. Then what happens is a very powerful thing. When people begin to interact together genuinely and they're open to each other's influence, they begin to get new insight. Something happens to them both. It creates the possibility of third alternatives, not the either-or approach, not win-lose, lose-win, not compromise. Compromise is 1 + 1 = 1.5. Positive synergy is 1 + 1 = 3. Negative synergy, 1 plus 1 equals 1/2. In other words, so much of the effort and energy is spent in the adversarialism, in conflict and defensive and protective communication that literally it just wastes the energy of the enterprise, of the marriage, of the family. Anyone who's experienced sustained conflict and contention, they know that very little productivity can come out. So just remember those definitions. Synergy is where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Synergy means you can literally produce something that neither of you could have produced before, and even adding what each can produce separately, 1 plus 1 equaling 2, is not synergy. Negative synergy, where there is internal contention and adversarialism, produces less than even what one person can usually produce on their own. Because so much of the energy is wasted going in the wrong direction and is counterproductive. Now, the traditional paradigm is one of compromise. That's literally where most people think we end up realistically. And it often is the case if you're in low-trust cultures. But compromise isn't necessary if people will pay the price with habits 4, 5, and 6. The key to habit 6, synergize. In fact, you could almost say the fundamental principle of 6 is to always value differences. It's not something you just accept that there are differences. It's not something that you tolerate. It's not something that is legislated through diversity programs. It is something that you celebrate. I mean, genuinely, the strength lies in differences, not in similarities. However, if there is not a common purpose and a common set of principles, a buy-in to these universal principles we've been talking about, diversity, differences, can result in chaos and negative synergy. And it spawns prejudice, prejudgment. And remember, prejudice is a protection against being vulnerable. If I get my security from my ability to manipulate people as things, and I can classify them, it protects me, see? I don't have to deal with people. I just deal with categories, and I have them labeled, and then I get into the self-fulfilling prophecy, and it is a seedbed to all kinds of other problems. That's why it requires this integrity of the first 3 habits. It requires the development of a common purpose, a common sense of meaning, a common sense of mission. What is it we're about? The moment you can achieve that, then run with differences in perceptions, in gifts, in talents. The more you have difference, the better. The capability of inventing new approaches, third alternatives, is increased exponentially because of differences. Strength literally lies in difference. These aren't just nice words to value differences. These are moral imperatives for those that really want to solve problems in entirely new ways. Go for synergy. So the moment someone disagrees with you, what do you say to them? Good. You see it differently. That's why I so value my wife's input, because I'll say, well, how do you see it? And she'll see it totally differently. But honestly, if you can learn to value differences and teach your children, the moment there's a difference, run with it. It's an advantage, not a disadvantage. Let me share with you a few thoughts and challenges to encourage you in the process of developing these habits. One of the most important things you can do is to share these ideas with others, with your family, with your friends and associates. Don't just retell what you've learned, but talk about the insights you've acquired and the ideas that you want to implement. Because that's where the real learning takes place. It is in the teaching and in the sharing. Get with a coach or someone who is also working on these habits. Set a specific time to get together and keep that date. Share insights into what has worked for you and what has not. Discover together how you can overcome the challenges you face in developing all of these habits. Set goals to improve in specific areas. Focus on a single habit. Look over your materials. Read and reflect on how you can improve in this habit. Revisit the commitments you've made to yourself throughout the course. Don't try to change everything all at once. Listen with your heart. Determine those things that are most important for you to work on right now. Remember, don't give up. Be patient. A strong character is not developed overnight. Choose to live your life based upon correct principles. All of the 7 habits are based on universal principles which have endured throughout the ages. Live the habits. Work within your circle of influence and become a transition figure in your work, your community, and your family. Set aside time to go to a quiet place to really think about your mission. What is it you stand for? What is your purpose? What are your values? Keep working through your mission statement until it inspires you. Then live by your mission. Choose to put first things first. Search for a win-win in every situation. Learn to stop and listen to others first. Listen with your heart. Value differences. Look at differences as the springboard to finding the third alternative. Finally, remember to always sharpen the saw, to renew yourself in a very balanced way. The power of these habits is in the doing, in the living, in the continuous, day-by-day improvements. It's a constant effort. We need to make these habits and these principles a part of our very life. We must pay the price by actually living them, rather than just understanding them intellectually. I love the quote from T.S. Eliot. Think about this. He once said, "We must never cease from exploring, and the end of our exploring will be to arrive where we began and know the place for the first time." You see, in a very real sense, you already know these habits in your heart. The exciting thing is to embark on a lifelong adventure, an exciting time of literally internalizing them and living them and experiencing the magnificent fruits that come in the totality of our lives.
시청자 여러분의 구독과 좋아요는 영상 제작에 도움이 됩니다.